Good morning, Kensington, Birmingham. Thank you for being here with us on this beautiful Memorial weekend. Would you stand and sing with us? So many rumors, so many stories about your life. I hear you speaking, but who do you say I am? Some say a prophet, some say a priest come back to life. You keep asking, but who do you say I am? The Christ, the King, the living, breathing God, the light, the way, Messiah, God with us. How great the revelation to see you as you are. The Christ, the King, exalted over all. I've seen healing, I've seen dead things raised to life, and I've been a witness of too many things I can't deny. I've seen your wounded side, the scars upon your hands. You keep asking, but who do you say I am? Christ, the King, the living, breathing God, the light, the way, Messiah, God with us. How great the revelation to see you as you are. The Christ, the King, exalted over all. And if I put my trust in anyone, it's Jesus. If I put my hope in anything, it's you. And if I'm gonna follow anyone, it's Jesus. If I'm sure of anything, it's always you. If I put my trust in anyone, it's Jesus. If I put my hope in anything, it's you. If I'm gonna follow anyone, it's Jesus. If I'm sure of anything, it's always you. The Christ, the King, the living, breathing God, the light, the way, Messiah, God with us. How great the revelation to see you as you are. The Christ, the King, exalted over all. The Christ, the King, exalted over all.
Is anybody thankful for Jesus this morning? Amen, amen. Well, guys, we're going to learn a new song today. It's called Keep Us Abiding. And it kind of relates with a lot of what we're talking about today. So let's sing this. And this is the chorus. So make your home in us as we dwell with you. You'll always be with us. So keep us abiding. Keep us abiding. All right, let's sing it. You are patient, you are kind. Love is always in your eyes. The Prince of Peace and faithful friend. You are good until the end. So make your home in us as we dwell with you. You'll always be with us, so keep us abiding, keep us abiding. Lord, we give you back control. You are gentle with our soul, and it's our joy to follow you. Your ways are higher than our own. So make your home in us as we dwell with you. You'll always be with us, so keep us abiding, keep us abiding, keep us abiding. You're teaching us how to be more like you, and as we're remaining, you make us new. You're teaching us how to be more like you, and as we're remaining, you make us new. You're teaching us how to be more like you. Yes, you are. And as we're remaining, you make us new. Keep us abiding, keep us abiding, keep us abiding, keep us abiding. So make your home in us as we dwell with you. You'll always be enough, so keep us abiding, keep us abiding. Make your home with us as we dwell with you. You'll always be enough. Keep us abiding, keep us abiding, keep us abiding, keep us abiding, abiding, keep us abiding. And how great is our God? Sing with me, how great is our God, and oh, see how great is our God. Come on, Kensington, if you believe that this morning, let's sing. And how great is our God. Sing with me, how great is our God. And oh, we'll see how great is our God. He's the name above all names. You're the name above all names. You are worthy of all praise. My heart will sing how great is our God. One more time, how great. And how great is our God. Sing with me, how great is our God. And oh, we'll see how great is our God. Amen. Can we give him some praise this morning? Well, Father, we just thank you. We thank you that we're here, that we have breath in our lungs. We thank you for the sunshine and the warmth on our skin. Lord, we love you and we praise you. And we ask you to be with us this morning. And that as we abide in you, God, that you would change us from the inside out. That we'd be sanctified by your word and through your spirit, God. We love you so much. We're thankful for the cross. We're thankful for who you are. We ask this all in God's precious and heavenly and holy name. And all God's people said, amen, amen. There we go. Well, you guys, if you guys could just turn to your neighbor and tell him hello, tell him something that you're thankful for this morning.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Thank you guys for being here this Memorial Weekend. I'm a little emotional. Wow, watching that video just made me a little emotional. For those that do not know me, my name is Brian Petty. So glad that you have joined us this morning. Hello, online service. We just want to take a quick moment and just honor Memorial Weekend and Memorial Day, which is happening tomorrow. But, today's Sunday, so we want to observe it today. This memorial is just a little special for me. 2 years ago, I lost my father who served in the U.S. Army, and so Memorial Day is just a little bit more meaningful for me than it used to be. And so here's a picture of me and my father. This is the last picture that we have together, and so he served. And so I just want to take a quick moment. If you know someone or you have someone that served in the U.S. military, let's just take a little moment, just a moment of silence just to honor them. So. Thank you, guys. So before we jump in today, we have a little greeting video, and it will play right now.
Hey Kensington, and happy Memorial Day weekend. I'm Sarah Rands, part of our student ministry team here. Today, we are kicking off our new series, Vines and Grapes. But before we dive in, there's one opportunity that I have for you and one thing to celebrate. Let's start off with the celebration. After all, who doesn't love some good news? Nearly 300 women made the trek to Spring Hill Camp last weekend for a women's retreat. They gathered to experience beauty, adventure, and most importantly, lock arms with each other and grow in their faith. Through some great teaching, music, conversations, and time to reflect, they had a chance to encounter God in a real way. One attender said, "I came here needing rest for my soul, and I found God this weekend." Another said, "I'm so grateful for the women here, very open and willing to connect." We are so grateful for the rest, grace, and love experienced across the weekend. So, for all of you ladies that may have missed this retreat, please keep your eyes open for future women's ministry events at our campuses. It's a great chance to meet other women, take a break from the normal routine, and connect with God. Okay, now that the weather is warm, let's take advantage of the great outdoors of Michigan. Next Saturday, June 3rd, at our Troy campus, our 9th annual Hope Water Project 5K and Fun Run is happening. We've been talking about this event for a few weeks now, and this is the last week to register. To get you caught up to speed, all of the proceeds from this event go to support our Pokot friends in Kenya. Clean drinking water in this area is almost impossible to find, and Kensington has been serving these wonderful people by funding the digging of wells. Clean water means life. It restores health, it brings faith, and it changes every generation that follows. This event really is for everyone. Serious runners, novice runners, non-runners, kids, anyone can take part in this great tradition. It's a perfect way to start your Saturday by meeting some other really cool people, getting in some exercise, and impacting the lives of our friends halfway around the globe. You can register and get more information by visiting kensingtonchurch.org/HWP. Now, let's see what God has in store for us as we kick off Vines and Grapes. Thanks for joining us today, guys.
Some fun things happening at Kensington. We're so pumped. If you have come, you probably have seen our lobby has changed a little bit. We moved everything outside. We're taking advantage of the beautiful weather this summer, and we're moving our coffee and our hub outside. So if you're new or this is your first time, please check us out at the hub. It's the double tent out there with the orange rugs. We would love to connect with you and greet you and just say hi to you and meet you for the first time. Also, if you want to buy a Mustang with that beautiful weather, you probably saw the Mustang last week. We're raffling off a 1974, I believe, Mustang, red convertible Mustang. It's beautiful. It's going to be at the hub, so you can buy raffle tickets there. One ticket is $30, or you can buy 3 for $50. So it's the perfect weather for the summertime to have a Mustang. Am I right? Yeah, I know. Let me just pull out my phone just so I don't miss anything. Oh, this week, so say Wednesday, May 31st. The last day of May. I can't believe that we're almost done with May. So at the end of this month on Wednesday, we have our team night with Tree of Life. So we're partnering with Tree of Life, our friends over there with Dr. Moore. And so we're partnering together. We're going to have a little worship night with some dessert and just a night of encouragement and vision casting. So please register for that. That is kensingtonchurch.org. You can look for it. It's a Birmingham team night, or you can get more information at the hub. Last news, 2 more. Justin gave me clear instructions, so you probably are wondering where Justin and Jenny are. So this weekend, they're at the Spring Hill Family Retreat. They're doing the teaching together, so they're really pumped. They have all their kids up there, so they're living the best life right now, but they're giving messages. So be praying for them as God is doing a lot of good things through them. But as we approach the end of our fiscal year, it means that we are in time of our annual vote, and that is happening in 2 weeks on June 11th. So on June 11th, please be sure to be here. We'll take time during the service and fill out some ballots to affirm the proposed budget and elders for the fiscal year. You can review all that information at kensingtonchurch.org/annual report. I would encourage all of you all to read and visit the page to read a letter from our lead pastor or elder, Craig Mays, who is now stepping away from that position as Brian is coming in. But visit kensingtonchurch.org/annual report for more details. And thank you all for supporting our mission to see everyone transformed and mobilized by Jesus. Before we kick off our service, we have a little bumper video. We have our very own Jackson doing the teaching. It's going to be an amazing message. Thank you, guys.
Hey, Kensington, here's Sam. Nope.
Here I am.
Here I am.
Here's Sam.
Hey, Kensington, we're at 3 North Vines today in Croswell, Michigan.
Croswell, not Roswell.
Yes, Croswell,
Michigan, yes.
in Michigan. And we are here today to learn what it takes to plant a vineyard. So here at the vineyard, we have our lovely new friend, Christy. Hi, Christy, welcome.
Hi.
And we want to learn all about what it takes to plant a vineyard.
Yeah, how does this happen? How does this work?
But for my husband and I, it was a hobby and a dream that went wild, and we grew it literally into a reality.
How did you decide this was a good place to have a vineyard?
So we looked at the type of soil we would need. We looked at the temperature data for the whole state, what makes certain regions more special for growing grapes.
Yeah.
We looked at what type of grapes we wanted to grow, what the experience for the customer was going to be.
Yeah.
All of that kind of went into informing, this space that we're standing in right now.
So do you take a grape and bury it and then...
So we're super lucky. We don't have to start there. There's companies that make the grapevines in baby form, and they send them to us in the mail.
So how did you decide what type of grape you wanted to? Is it planting? Is that what you would say?
Yeah,
Is
it's
it
planting.
casting? Is it plant? What
Yeah,
is
we
it?
dig a deep hole in the ground when we put the vines in there when they're really young, and after 3 years you get your first harvest, and 5 years they're at
how
full
many years?
production. 3.
So you did all this work and then you're like...
Nothing.
Yeah.
You just sit and wait.
Watching it.
Sit and wait. It's
nothing?
not like a get-rich-quick scheme at all.
It's
a long adventure.
Yeah, an adventure. I like that. I was going to use another word, but that's great.
Okay, yeah. When choosing this location, what did the climate have to do with that? Because sometimes it can snow still, in May.
Yeah.
So how does the climate affect your vineyard? Was that a part of deciding where to plant?
Absolutely. Climate plays a huge role in what grapes you want to pick, where you can grow certain things, and how long your growing season is, which then decides, did I get this to the sugar content I need to make a great wine? But then on the same flip side of that, you don't want anything that's going to break its dormancy or come out too early. Because like you said, we can still get snow, even at this time of year.
Right,
we can still have a hard freeze at night. So we want things that are going to break dormancy late in the season and then do a really fast, quick job of getting ripe, and then be ready in September or early October for harvest.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah,
So it's super intentional.
Yeah. So during that time after it breaks and it's growing through that September, October, what do you hope the climate is? Do you want it hot, dry? What is the hope during that season?
Yeah, the hotter and the drier at that point, the better, because we're concentrating those sugars and we're creating those flavor compounds. So as grapes are getting dry, we're getting closer to harvest, sugar content's going like this. We're gaining what they call a Brix, or that's the amount of sugar in the grape per week.
Yeah.
And then our acidity is dropping off. So there's kind of a point where they're theoretically supposed to cross, and that's your target for your perfect harvest.
Okay.
So that's what we're looking for.
Christy, thank you so much for taking the time talking to us about, launching a vineyard, planting, all the things. I'm excited to continue the conversation next week.
Awesome. See you then.
Hey, Kensington, we are at 3 North Vineyards. Is it vineyards or vines? Vine. Plant one, create it, grow the grapes, and all the things in between.
All the things.
All the things. Should I say, hey, Kensington?
I was going to say, what are you saying? Hey, Kensington? Yeah.
Hey, Kensington?
Hey, Kensington.
Sure, why not? I think Sam's life is a blooper. If any of you know Sam, I think his whole life is just a blooper. Good morning. How we all doing? Good. My name's Jackson. I'm our student ministry director here at Birmingham. Some of you may see me in the lobby. Sometimes I'm usually hiding all the way down this long hallway with a bunch of middle schoolers, and it's crazy down there. So I'm super excited to be up here with all of you. First off, I want to thank Brian for leading us through that beautiful Memorial Day moment. Can we just give it up for him really quick? To be able to lead us through that moment was really, really beautiful to celebrate this weekend. And so we're in this Vines and Grapes series, and I'm really glad that they played that video because as I was prepping for this, I was thinking, I'm not an expert in any of this kind of stuff. And so as I was prepping, I decided, well, since I know nothing, I do know somebody that knows something. And so I called my dad last week, and I'm like, listen, Dad, he's going through level 3 sommelier training, so the dude's like super nerd about grapes and vines and all that. And I'm like, this is perfect, all right? So like, give me the lowdown. And I called him, and he starts going into all these details, and he's like, nerding out, because I asked him about his favorite subject. And I was like, man, this is way over my head. Can you like give me some like little things? He's like, oh, just swing out by the house, grab a textbook, it'll be great. I'm like, Dad, I don't got time for a textbook. I appreciate it. So he sent me some screenshots of the textbook and sent it to me. I'm like, this is amazing. And then I find out that there was this video to play ahead of time that did all of it for me. So thank you for the video, and thank you, Dad, for giving me all that amazing information. But that video is amazing, and it goes into all the difficult and the deep parts of what it takes to grow grapes and to have a winery, to have a vineyard. And we're in this grape and vine series where we are going to be talking about that exact topic. But that theme is incredibly biblical, and there's lots to unpack. But the most interesting thing about these vines and these grapes that I learned from all of this, from all the conversation with my dad and all that, is just how dependent these vines are on the environment around them. Now, of course, that's true with any crop, but especially with vines, there's so many factors that can change the exact taste of the grape and maybe the wine eventually or the juice in the end product, like the soil, the water, the climate, the elevation, the water levels that these vines get. There are so many different factors that go into this, and it really made me think how opposite our culture is of that. How dependent these vines are on the environment around them, but in our culture, in our Western culture here, we love to be independent. Am I right? Like that's like every kid's goal is to become as independent as possible. In fact, in middle school, we got a bunch of 13-year-olds like going on 30 sometimes, all right? Like they just want to be as independent as possible. But that's true for all of us. And that's the example we represent, is that we want to be able to control everything ourselves and not let any of our life be determined by the factors around us. But what happens when things don't work out the way we expect? Because let's be honest, we can't control everything in our own efforts, right? Sometimes we can't make things happen. Sometimes things fail or plans don't work out. We're left broken, hurt, dissatisfied, and stuck. Sometimes our work doesn't lead to fulfillment. So is there another way? That's what we're going to be looking at in this series, how we can do life differently in the life that Jesus has called us into. And so we're going to dive into some of the final words of Jesus today during the Last Supper, the words that Jesus gave to his disciples. So as we jump into today, will you all pray with me real quick? Lord, thank you so much for this beautiful weekend. Thank you for the servicemen and women who have lost their lives for us and for our country. Thank you for the fact that we get to all be here today. Lord, I pray that the words that come out of my mouth may be of you. I pray that there are open hearts and open minds to what you have to say this morning, and I pray that your Spirit may move throughout us. We love you, Lord. It's in your name we pray. Amen. All right, I would like to take a quick moment to receive our offering. So we'll throw up a slide, and there's all the different ways that you are able to give if you are a member of our church. If you consider this your home, we would love for you to be a part of this. If you are a guest, please just dismiss the next 2 minutes of what I'm going to say. But here's the really fun thing, is I know we share lots of fun stories and things that God does because of your generosity, because of your faithful giving to our church, but you guys don't get to see what I get to see, and so I just want to share how thankful I am for all of you, for your generosity and for your faithful giving, because what goes on down that incredibly long hallway to the middle school and the kids wing is amazing. And the things that I get to see because of your generosity is amazing. Like just this morning, I'm really kind of sad, actually, I'm not in there. We have a couple 8th graders sharing their last words. We do this series at the end of the year called Last Words, where 8th graders get to share their favorite memories and moments from Breakaway the past 3 years, but then also they share how they have grown with Jesus over the past few years and what God has done for them. And it's kind of their last words of advice and encouragement to the rest of middle school. And it's so beautiful. It's so cool. I love it. One, I don't have to share, and they don't have to listen to me, but they get to listen to their peers talk about how Jesus has changed their life, and it's beautiful. And I wish you all could hear those stories as well. And so I just want to thank you for that. And also, if any of you have gone down that hallway in the last month, K-Kids has been crushing it. Pineapple Mayhem was insane. So if you don't know, Pineapple Mayhem's like this party that K-Kids does for 4 weeks every year. It's this massive competition, and the kids go all out. And if you saw people dressed really weirdly over the last month, it was likely because of that. And Amanda and Michaela, our K-Kids team, has just been doing such a good job down that hallway that they have so many cool stories of what God is doing down there because of your generosity. So I want to thank you. But then also a quick plug, if you would like to volunteer more than finances and money and offering, if you would like to volunteer your time, I know the K-Kids team needs a ton of help this summer. As small group leaders take a break during the summer, the only way they can keep their classrooms open and the only reason they can do what they do is through volunteers. And so if you have a couple weeks this summer that are free and you're able to donate your time to K-Kids, I know there's some posters in the lobby with QR codes, or you can find myself, Amanda, or Michaela, and let us know, hey, I would love to help out this summer once or twice, hang out with some kids, ask some questions. It'll be great. So if you would like to offer some time, you can do that as well. All right, as I was preparing for this message and I was talking about it in the office that we are in this Grape and Vine series, I was kind of talking about it a little bit, and our production director, Danny, who's in the tech booth back there hiding, we made a joke as I was talking about. He said, so are we just going to do like a wine tasting in church? Is that what we're doing this series? I was like, Danny, I love where your head's at. We'll do like a 30-minute wine tasting. It'll be the whole service. Highest attended service ever. Honestly, Justin's not here. He won't know. It'll be great. He'll just hear all the reports of people texting him like, dude, best service ever. Like, you should miss more often. It'll be great. So Danny, you're onto something. But sadly, no, we are not doing that today. We do get communion today. So, there's a little something later. It's juice. Sorry to disappoint, but just pretend. It'll be great. But the reason we are talking about vines today is because the imagery of vines is pertinent throughout the entire Bible. And I'm thankful that today we're talking about my favorite moment where Jesus is sharing about vines the night of the Passover, the Last Supper, before Jesus was going to go to the cross. And so Jesus takes his disciples to this borrowed upper room. He washes their feet. He's teaching them some things. Judas exits early because he's about to go betray him. And Jesus shares this with us in John 15. We'll throw it up on the screen. I am the true vine, and my Father is the gardener. He cuts off every branch in me that bears no fruit, while every branch that does bear fruit he prunes, so that it will be even more fruitful. You are already clean because of the word I have spoken to you. Remain in me as I also remain in you. No branch can bear fruit by itself. It must remain in the vine. Neither can you bear fruit unless you remain in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. If you remain in me and I in you, you will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. If you do not remain in me, you are like a branch that is thrown away and withers. Such branches are picked up, thrown into the fire, and burned. If you remain in me and my words remain in you, ask whatever you wish and it will be done for you. This is to my Father's glory that you bear much fruit, showing yourselves to be my disciples, as the Father has loved me. So have I loved you. Now remain in my love. Now, there's a lot to unpack here. I bet you I could probably figure out like 10 different sermons from this. You could probably figure out more. Justin could probably figure out like 100. The dude just like churns them out. And there's just one thing that I really want to sit in this. There's one main point that I would love to sit in, and it's Jesus continues to remind them to remain in the vine. And that's what we're focusing on this morning, remain in the vine. See, in his final thoughts and his final words, Jesus decides to shift the narrative. For 3 years, he was doing ministry on earth. He was calling disciples. He was doing miracles, and his main message was follow me, right? He kept encouraging people, follow me. Follow the ways that I want to show you. And now in the end, Jesus says, instead of follow me, because he knows he's about to depart and they're already confused and they're going to be even more confused, he says, remain in me. Now in viticulture, there's this term called terroir. Now, it's a French word, and normally for pastors, they teach you like the Latin words, the Greek words, the Hebrew words, right? Like pastors are always coming up with like teaching you all these words. Well, now we're going French, all right? I took French in middle school, so hopefully I'm crushing this. The word is terroir, all right? Now, terroir is a super interesting word. It just means the entire environment and culture around the vine. Like we watched in that video, so many aspects of terroir affect the vine in the end. The climate, the soil, the elevation, the sunlight, the water levels. And here, Jesus was boldly saying that the sense of place, so terroir is the sense of place, the sense of place that we are to place ourselves in is not rooted in a location, but in a person, in Jesus. He was saying that he wants to be their home, their holy place, what they are to be rooted in, and that they are to remain in him. And this sense of place is something that we all long for. All of us do. In fact, one of the biggest reasons I love working with middle school and high schoolers is because when I was a student, that was all I was trying to figure out was my sense of place, right? You're trying to figure out your place in the world. You don't know what's going on. You're trying to figure out friends and how to communicate with people and who is God in my life. And there's so many things to figure out. Who's talking to who's friends with who has nice cars or nice clothes, right? You're just trying to figure out your place in the world, and there's so many things going on that we all are trying to find our sense of place. But the thing that I noticed is there's this song from the early 2000s. This is such a 90s kid reference, so I hope some of you know the song. A song from the early 2000s by Bowling for Soup called High School Never Ends. All right, I'm sure maybe some of you have heard it. And this song is like super goofy and kind of weird. It does have a little bit of choice language, so maybe don't play it on the way home if you got some kids in the car. But the song talks all about how in high school, you have all these things going on that you're trying to figure out, basically all the chaos of high school, like who's talking to who's friends with who has nice clothes, who has nice things, all that. But that you graduate high school thinking, oh, finally, I'm going to get rid of all of that. We don't have to worry about that, and now I'm an adult, nobody cares. To find out that high school never ends. People still care about who has the nice things, who wears the nice clothes, who's friends with who's making money, right? That's still what our world cares about. High school never really ends. And I think that's true. So the same reason that I care about talking to middle school and high schoolers, trying to find our sense of place, is the same reason I'm excited to talk to you about this message today, is that our world and our culture is desperately trying to find their sense of place in all the wrong things. We try to find our peace, our comfort, ultimately our fulfillment in anything and everything. We try to look everywhere for it. It's our fast-paced, quick result culture where we try to spend our time, our money, and our resources just to make things bigger and better and to accumulate more. Oftentimes we put our dependence not only in things but also in places or in people, so much so that at times we feel inseparable from these different things or people. But none of these will last forever. None of these will ultimately bring us true fulfillment for our souls. And more often than not, in searching for these, the results are loneliness, unfulfillment, and emptiness. So Jesus was going to shake things up for his disciples. He wants them to find their sense of place long after he's not going to be on the earth. So instead of follow me, he now says, remain in me. And Jesus is saying the same things to us. He desires us to find that sense of place in him. And I believe we can find all that we need, success and fulfillment, not just in our own efforts, but in him. He says in 15 verse 5, he says, apart from me, you can do nothing. This was probably the hardest verse for me to understand in this entire passage for the longest time. I don't know if you read this and you think the same way I do, but the first thought I had was, there are plenty of people that do cool things without Jesus, right? There's industry leaders, there's people that are successful, like you flip on the TV or anywhere, and there's plenty of people doing amazing, really cool, amazing things, but they don't have Jesus in their life. So I'm like, all right, this makes no sense. Apart from me, you can do nothing. Clearly, people can do things without God. Like, this didn't make sense to me. But I want to sit here for a second because I think what Jesus is saying is instead of you can just do nothing in the world, I think what he's saying is you can do nothing of eternal value apart from me. You can do lots in this world. You can do lots of successful things compared to our worldly standards, but compared to his standards and what he's looking out for, there is nothing of eternal worth we can do without him. Jesus is inviting us into something different, something deeper, something more sustaining, something more fulfilling, something that is eternal. He is offering us himself. And so he desires to shift our securities to him alone. He wants to be our terroir. He wants to be our sense of place, our true belonging. Even in the midst of any ups and downs of life, he is our security and our dependence. Other translations use the word abide. I know some people love the word abide. So remain, abide, I'll kind of use them both interchangeably. But the word abide means to continue or to stay, to be consistent. And so he gives us this visual example of branches connected to a vine. And that when the branches are connected to the vine, they're being continually poured into, continually fed from the vine. They continually have their sense of place. And I love this word abide because it reminds me of the consistency of it. It is consistently connected to the vine. The branches are consistently connected. Now, last weekend, my wife and I got to drive down to Tulsa, Oklahoma, and it was a very long drive, but it was for a triathlon that I got to take part in. That was a lot of fun, and I've been training for a long while. This was one of my life goals that I've been working for to achieve an Ironman distance triathlon. And so last weekend, we went down there to do that, and it went great. It went amazingly. I finished. It's awesome. I have some really weird tan lines you can ask me about later. That's why I'm wearing long sleeves. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, I can't wear sleeves I have to wear sleeves all summer because the tan line is absolutely terrible. Like, it's amazing. You should ask me about it later. But the race went great, and people keep asking me, what was the hardest part? Was it the swim, the bike, the run? Like, what was the hardest part for you? And honestly, it was none of those. And I know that sounds really weird because you're like, those are the three parts of a triathlon. Like, why would one of those three not be the hardest part? Well, in triathlon, there's this weird thing that people joke about, that nutrition is the fourth discipline. So you kind of have the main three, and then nutrition, you need to focus on it just as much as the other three. If any of you have done like long distance races, you know that nutrition's pretty important because you'll run out of glycogen stores and glucose if you just keep working and keep draining your system, but you're not refueling it. And so throughout the race, on the bike especially, I had to take all these energy gels and Cliff Bars, and so I brought these, if anybody's ever seen like these energy gels like these, all right, so I had like 15 of these throughout the bike, and I had like, I think 6 Cliff Bars throughout the bike, so I'm like constantly taking in food, right? And I've done some longer races before running, but like never on the bike where I'm like hunched up and my stomach's like kind of being scrunched. So I took like tons of these for nutrition. I'm just taking them in, and the bike went great. I crushed the bike, felt way better than I thought I was going to, but I get to the run, and I'm like 2 miles in. I have a marathon to run, so I'm like, all right, it's gonna be a long time, you know? So I get 2 miles in, and my stomach is like a brick. Like, my entire core is hurting like crazy. It was like the side stitch, but across my entire core. I was like, I can't run right now. I really couldn't run. My legs felt great. Like, energy-wise, I was fine, but I just couldn't run. So I basically walked/jogged. It would be like a quarter-mile walk, quarter-mile jog, quarter-mile walk, quarter-mile jog for the entire marathon. So it definitely took longer than I was hoping for it to be. And again, my legs felt great. So I can't say the run I felt bad, but the nutrition aspect was by far the hardest part, especially when my stomach hurt. I still had like 5 hours to go at the beginning of the marathon, and I knew I had to still keep taking in those gels and gummy bears, and they had like potato chips and other things on the run. It was amazing. But I had to keep taking in this food, even though I thought I was like nauseous the entire time. It was terrible. And nutrition was super important. But the most important thing was to be consistent with it. You had to just consistently take it in because your body is consistently depleting your energy sources. So I had to consistently keep taking it in. Now, this is the opposite of a car. When we took the road trip there, filled up our gas tank, you drive it till it's almost empty, you fill it up again, you drive it till it's almost empty, and your car works great that way, right? That's how all of our cars work, and it functions great. Well, our bodies were not meant to do that. And what Christ is saying in the same way that I had to consistently take in nutrition, I had to consistently be topped off in my energy levels, is the same way he wants us to be connected to the vine. He wants to consistently top off our souls. He wants to fill us up. Abiding is continually receiving and trusting in Christ. It means receiving the love of Jesus and receiving the joy that Jesus has in the Father and in us. Nothing of spiritual or eternal significance is even possible apart from abiding. Abiding is the foundation and our source of nurturing growth in our relationship with Christ. In fact, there is no fruit. There are no grapes in the end without remaining in the vine. So all the fruit we read about in the Bible, what Christ has called us to be when we are transformed, cannot happen without abiding. So how do we abide, right? How do we remain in Christ? What does that even look like? Well, abiding means being united with Jesus, right? He says, remain in me as I also remain in you. So abiding means being united with Jesus. We experience being united through our pursuit of connection with him, right? It's a relationship, not a transaction. It goes both ways. We need to communicate with God as much as we need to listen for him communicating with us and him moving in us. So we abide with him as he abides with us. It's relational. That's the first part. Abiding also means relying on Jesus, putting our dependence and our trust in him. Now, this is unlike being united because this doesn't really go both ways. He doesn't rely and depend on us, but we absolutely need to rely and depend on him. The nice thing is that he cares for our every need. So in Matthew 6, 25 to 26, we'll read it quickly. Jesus cares about our every need. So when we depend on him, we are depending on the one who cares and loves for every need of ours. He says in Matthew 6, therefore I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat or drink, or about your body, what you will wear. Is life not more than food and the body more than clothes? Look at the birds of the air. They do not sow or reap or store away in barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not much more valuable than they? So remaining in Christ gives us the strength and the hope needed to rely on him in everyday life. Abiding also means finding rest in Jesus. I'm going to read Matthew 11, 28 through 30. I'm going to read it in the Message translation, which is a little different. It's more of a thought-for-thought translation, so it's not super literal, but I love the way that the author of the Message translation puts these verses. He says, are you tired, worn out? This is Jesus saying this. Are you tired, worn out, burned out by religion? Come to me. Get away with me and you'll recover your life. I'll show you how to take a real rest. Walk with me and work with me. Watch how I do it. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. Keep company with me and you'll learn to live freely and lightly. Jesus invites us to find rest in him. Rest from the demands and the burdens of life and of sin. A rest that is found only through our faith in him and our surrender of our control and our dependence that we can then place on him. It's the confidence of a small infant sitting in their mother's arms, being able to fall asleep, trusting that everything's okay. That's the same kind of rest we are to have in Jesus. It's rest that promises love, healing, and peace. But abiding is not still or immobile. Abiding is active. It is something we need to do. Being a branch to the vine means living with Christ, doing the day-to-day with him. It's being aware of his presence when we would otherwise just do things our own way and in our own independence. It's becoming aware of his presence in all moments of life. I love thinking about the different way that people spend time with God and the different ways people connect with God. I think of my wife. She loves listening to worship music on her way to work. This is something that I don't normally do, but I've driven with her to work sometimes, and I've tried putting on other music accidentally, and she's like, no, it's either silence or worship music. It's one of the two, and that's her rhythm. She's got a longer commute to work, and she loves spending that time focusing on Jesus. That's hers. For me, if I get up early in the morning, I love being able to lay down on the floor. It's kind of weird, but I lay on the floor, I light a candle, and I use that time to pray, meditate, read scripture, and just spend that time with God. There's also an amazing app called the Pause app. Maybe some of you have heard of it. I know Justin's probably talked about it before. This app that you can get, it will remind you twice a day to take a pause, and it gives you a 1 minute up to 10 minute Christian meditation, biblical meditation that will lead you through to just remind you to connect and be aware of the presence of God throughout your day. A couple things I also love. My mom during Lent has these tiny little crosses that are almost like rocks that she puts in her socks the entire season of Lent. And if any of you have ever had a rock or a pebble in your shoe, it's incredibly annoying. She does that the entire time, but it's a constant reminder of the sacrifice Jesus made on the cross. So that pain that she experiences in her feet and that annoyance she's constantly experiencing reminds her to be aware of the presence of God in her life. It's just a beautiful way that she connects with God. A couple weeks ago, I wanted to hang out with one of my small group leaders down in Breakaway. His name's Stu Sabolka. He's an amazing leader. He teaches our students so well, and I love his service. And so I wanted to connect with him, so I said, Stu, let's hang out, let's catch up. He said, hey, I've been bird watching a lot lately. It's migration season. It's a few weeks ago. He's like, you want to come bird watching with me? I was like, absolutely, yeah, let's do it. So we got up early in the morning, and I met him at a park, and we just walked around for an hour. Well, I did for an hour. He was there for 4 hours. But I walked around with him for an hour, and we just watched birds, connected in nature, had great conversation, and Stu loves to connect with God through nature. He sees the presence of God by spending time in his creation, and he loves that. So I want to ask for you, what are the different things or activities you can do to make yourself more aware of God's presence in your life? It could be something simple. It could be something more involved. But how can you remain in him? Because the more we abide, the more his grace, his love, and his power transforms us. And we then begin to reflect the real attributes of the vine, of the fruit. Right? If we want good fruit, we must remain in Christ. In fact, Dallas Willard says this. I love how he says this. He says, you must arrange your days so that you are experiencing deep contentment, joy, and confidence in your everyday life with God. So how are you arranging your days? That's the question I want to ask. Does it give space to be connected to the vine? Think about your day-to-day schedule. How could you purposefully spend more time being united with Christ, relying on him, resting in him? How can you remain in the vine? Now, I'm thankful I get to encourage you all with this message today, because if there was one thing I wanted all of our middle school and high school students that I get to lead to understand by the time they graduate high school, it is this one thing. It is to remain in him. Because I know that when they leave high school, if they can get this one thing, they will be successful in the eyes of God. No matter what happens in life, the ups, the downs, the terrible, the good, the people that come in and out of it, the things that come in and out of it, if they can just remain in him, they have the foundation they need for the rest of their life. That doesn't change for us. Like I said earlier, high school never ends, right? It is true for all of us too. Just a couple weeks ago, I got lunch with one of our high school small group leaders, Steve Buchanan, and Steve's amazing. We got lunch on a Monday after a long day of ministry Sunday, right? I do middle school in the morning and then high school at night. We got lunch and we're hanging out, and I was telling him about this story that happened earlier in the morning where I'm at my apartment complex trying to fit my bike in my car, and apartment complex, massive facility, tons of neighbors. I obviously don't know all my neighbors. So this dude is biking by, and he starts to make some small talk with me, but it was kind of like weird small talk, and I was kind of thrown off. And it was like Monday morning, and I was pretty tired, and I was just kind of wanted to blow him off and like not engage in any conversation. I thought it was weird. I didn't really want to be there. And so I kind of just blew it off a little bit. So I'm telling Steve about my weird morning, because it was like a 15-minute encounter. And he asked me, like, were you looking for where Jesus was in that moment? And what maybe he wanted to speak through you to that person? I was like, whoa, no, I was not. And I kind of made a cracking joke that I'm a great, or maybe a good Sunday pastor, or maybe a good like Tuesday, Wednesday afternoon pastor, but Monday morning pastor, very difficult, let me tell you. Being a good pastor on Monday morning's hard. I kind of just made a joke about it, but it's real. I didn't feel connected to the vine in that moment. I wasn't acting out of the good fruit. I wasn't allowing Jesus to transform my heart and my ways, right? That's difficult. It takes time. It takes daily connecting with the Father. So I'm not just preaching to all of you. Trust me, I'm preaching this to myself. We all need this reminder to remain in him, to allow our connection with God to transform our hearts from the inside out. And I just imagine how bright the light would be if everyone in this room were to be daily connecting with God, remaining in the vine, the light that we would all shine to our community. Could you just imagine if in every moment we all were aware of the presence of God, allowing him to flow through us to our community, the impact that we could make on a daily basis? It'd be beautiful. It would be kingdom changing forever. And that's what I imagine can happen if we can remain in him daily. So Jesus gave his disciples this message at the Last Supper, and we're going to close out the day in worship, and we're also going to take communion. So I'm going to invite the band out here, and what we're going to do next is sing this song called Give Me Jesus. And throughout this song, we can take communion. There's 2 stations in the middle. There's 2 stations up front. So when you're ready throughout this song, you can go ahead to one of those stations and partake in the bread and the blood. But this this wafer and the juice, the body and blood of Christ that is represented in this moment, is remaining in him. This is an active moment of being connected to the vine, remaining in him. So take this moment today, and also as a reminder for the days to come, that we are constantly connected to the vine. Will you all pray with me? Jesus, thank you so much for today. God, thank you for the truth that we are able to remain in you. God, thank you for being the vine. Thank you for being our terroir, our place, our sense of place where we can be connected to you. God, thank you for transforming our hearts. God, thank you for your sacrifice on the cross. Lord, you are so good to us. May your spirit flow through us through this next moment. May we be reminded of the sacrifice you made and give you all the thanks and all the praise and all the glory. Amen.
And this morning, as we enter into this time of communion, we're going to be singing through a few songs. And this next song that we're going to sing is really dwelling and remembering the invitation that Jesus gives us to remember his love and his sacrifice and the way that he speaks into our lives, and how he invites us to abide in that. And I know that often when we sing together, we invite you to stand and sing with us. And that is a way to dwell in his presence. It's a way to surrender to him. But this morning, as we take our communion, as we worship, we want to encourage you that sitting in silence and remembering and taking time to just think on the lyrics is also a way to abide and to dwell in that promise that Jesus has given us. So this morning, whether it is standing and singing the words and raising your hands, or sitting in silence in communication with Jesus, all of that is a beautiful way to worship. So as we enter into this next song and we sing, you can have all this world, but give me Jesus, we encourage you to worship in whatever way you need to this morning.
to die. When I come to die, and when I come to die, give me Jesus. Oh, Jesus, give me Jesus. Give me Jesus. You can have all this world. You can have all this world. You can have all this world. But give me Jesus. Oh, give me Jesus.
Mighty One, Mighty One, we worship you. Mighty One, Mighty One, we worship you. For I've tasted and seen your goodness, and I've stood in the power of your presence. For I've felt the depths of your mercy. Oh, how your love, it always surrounds me. Mighty One, Mighty One, we worship you. Mighty One, Mighty One, we worship you. For I've tasted and seen your goodness, and I've stood in the power of your presence. For I've felt the depths of your mercy. Oh, how your love, it always surrounds me. Lord, how worthy of the highest praise, and all my love for you alone. How worthy of the highest praise, and all my love for you alone. How worthy of the highest praise, and all my love for you alone. How worthy of the highest praise, and all my love. For I've tasted and seen your goodness, and I've stood in the power of your presence. For I've felt the depths of your mercy. Oh, how your love, it always surrounds me.
Well, thanks for joining us this morning, Kensington. Please, as you head out, enjoy our outdoor lobby and this beautiful day with us before you head out. And a reminder, if you want to jump into K-Kids throughout the summer, there'll be QR codes you can scan out in the hallways. And I hope you get to enjoy your long weekend. Thanks for joining us this morning.